ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Namaskar dear friends, this is the third video in continuity about the book most liked and recommended by Maharshi Ramana, Kaivalya Navneetam, the cream of liberation. So I start the video, verse number 105. Knowledge is the cause and objects the effects. It is fruitless to discuss how the phantoms of names and forms came into being and how they will vanish, not caring how this long drawn out dream of the world came into being or how it is withdrawn. Only remain aware as the consciousness self which is all embracing. Verse number 106. To the degree that you turn away from attachments to the unreal, your inner vision of reality develops. If by a steady practice of this kind the mind comes under control and becomes aware as consciousness self, you can abide as the ocean of bliss, though living in the bitter body. Verse 107. Disciple, I do not see the propriety of the statement that all beings are permeated, permeated by the single non-dual self, which is all embracing as being consciousness bliss. The existence of the jivas is clear because they all say I. Consciousness also is clear because of knowledge which is obvious. Why does not bliss show forth in a similar way? Verse 108. Master, although there are shape, fragrance, and softness together present in the same flower, each of them is cognized by a separate sense only, otherwise they are not perceived. Such is the law of nature. Similarly, though the beatific qualities being consciousness and bliss together form the self, yet the moods vary constantly and give rise to the differences which appear as the world. Verse number 109. The three qualities, sattva, rajas, and tamas, give rise to the three modes, repose, agitation, and ignorance, respectively. Being consciousness and bliss, which are themselves glorious, always remain a homogeneous whole, yet appear different. Verse 110. Bare existence alone is noticed in plants, minerals, and the earth, which look insentient and are ignorant. There can be no happiness in the state of disturbance caused by passions such as lust, which act like poison, but being and consciousness are evident in it. Being, consciousness, and bliss together become manifest in the state of peace, which is characterized by a stern detachment from externalities. Therefore, bliss becomes clear in a peaceful mind rid of ignorance and agitation. Verse 111. Disciple, Lord, who has appeared as my master in the world, I do not clearly understand the character of being consciousness bliss. Satya Chit Ananda. What is this Satya? What is Chit? And what is Ananda? Master. Sat being is that which does not perish at any time, past, present, or future. Chitta, consciousness is that which cognizes the different objects. Ananda is the joy arising out of the experience of bliss during the enjoyment of an object of desire. Verse 112 Disciple, master who demolishes the forts of the seeds, although the Mahavakyas in the four Vedas declare, Thou art Satyachit Ananda to the indweller in the mortal body, and masters say, Thou art Brahma, yet how can one experience I am Satyachit Ananda? Verse 113 Master, when it is said that rebirths are the inevitable results of past actions, does it not follow that the person was existent in the past? Again, should heaven and hell be the rewards of present actions? Does it not follow that he will continue to exist in the future? A subtle body suited to heaven or hell, a celestial body or a human body, which are all the results of illusion, often change and pass away. Always surviving the false body, it is but right to say that he is Sati. Verse number 114 In the darkness covering deep sleep and night, when there is no sun or lamp, he is unmistakably aware of darkness and objects, so he is Chitte. He is also Ananda because his love never fades for the incomparably beatific self. For love manifests only for an object of pleasure. Verse number 115 Food, drink, and so forth are dear to all alike because pleasure is derived from them. The self is not likewise a means to beatitude. Should the self described above be classed along with other means of pleasure? Where is the pleasure apart from enjoyer thereof? Can the self be too? Verse 116 Love for sensual pleasure is evident, but the love for the self remains unrivaled. The love for sensual pleasures undergoes changes, whereas the intense love for the self remains unchanging. Sensual pleasures can be enjoyed or rejected, but who is there to accept or reject the self? The self can reject all other pleasures but not reject itself. Verse 117 It is wrong to imagine that the self kills itself and gets rid of itself by committing suicide in a burning passion. He who kills the body cannot be the body given up by him. The disgust is for the body and never for the self. Verse number 118 Wealth is much sought after, but a son is dearer than wealth. One's own body is dearer than a son. The senses are dearer than the body. The life breath is dearer than the senses and the self is very much dearer than life itself. This self is the essence, and the other three selves, the secondary, with the son, the illusory, the body, and the acting ones, the ego, successively increase in importance. Verse number 119 At the time of one's death, the secondary self, namely the son who succeeds to the father's estate, assumes prominence at the time of nourishment. The illusory self, namely the body, is prominent. When a happy future life is desired, the acting self, that is the ego, becomes prominent. But in the state of liberation, the self, too, with pure consciousness, is paramount. Verse 120 Even a tiger becomes a favorite when it is obedient, and a son is hated when he thwarts one. In this world, the things like straw, which are neither loved nor hated, are treated with indifference. But under no circumstances does the love of the stainless self diminish for anyone. Therefore, my son, investigate your true nature which is unbroken bliss only, and realize the self. Verse number 121. Disciple, how many kinds of ananda, bliss or sukha are there? Master, there are three kinds of ananda, bliss or sukha. Number one, Brahmananda, which shines as pure consciousness, for example, in sleep. Number two, Vasanananda, Vasanananda, which is present in reminiscence. And third, Vishaya Ananda, which is the joy of gaining the desired object. However, others say that there are eight kinds of Ananda. The above three include the other five of the eight. I shall nevertheless tell you all these eight. Verse number 122. Eight kinds of Ananda included in the preceding three kinds. Number one, Vishaya Sukha, the pleasure of sensual enjoyment. Number two, Brahma Sukha, the bliss of dreamless sleep. Third, Vasana Sukha, the remembrance of the above for a few minutes immediately after waking. Fourth, Atma Sukha, the happiness which ensues on determining that the self is the dearest of all the dear things. Fifth, Mukhya Sukha, the bliss of Samadhi, when the veil of ignorance is completely lifted. Sixth, Nija Sukha, the contentment which results from indifference. Seven, Advitya Sukha, the happiness of holding on to the self to the exclusion of divinity. 8. Vidya Sukha, the happiness that results from the inquiry into the self in accordance with the scriptural text, delight of knowledge at the end. Verse 123. Master, now I shall describe their distinguishing characteristics. A man who is always exerting himself in the waking state seeks rest on his bed out of sheer exhaustion. Then his mind is well turned inward, and in that state it reflects the image of the bliss of consciousness which shines by itself. The pleasure which he then experiences represents objective pleasure. Verse 124. The person who feeling objective pleasures are poor because they involve the painful trials of enjoyment and other object enjoyed, keeps the mind in repose and falls into sleep like an eagle dropping into its nest, becomes one with the limitless transcendent being and remains as the blissful self. This supreme state of bliss is unrivaled Brahmananda. Verse 125, that the bliss of deep sleep is Brahmananda is the statement of the scriptures that some persons take elaborate care to provide themselves with downy beds to sleep on is the fact which supports it that in that state all sense of right and wrong, of man or woman, of in or out is totally lost, as at the time of the embrace of the beloved is the experience which confirms to it. It is Brahmananda, sure and certain. Verse number 126. Disciple, master, in this world of cause and effect, the experience of one cannot be felt by another. In deep sleep, the intellectual sheath has subsided and the blissful sheath has the experience of happiness. Is it right that this experience should be remembered by the intellectual sheath which expresses it? Verse number 127. Master, know that these two stand to each other in the relationship of melted ghee and solidified ghee. They differ in their limiting thoughts but not in their intrinsic knowledge. The intellectual sheath limited by the mind and active in the waking state, and the blissful one made of the bliss of pure consciousness which appears when the painful mind subsides in deep sleep, are not different from each other, just like rainwater and the water stored in reservoir, or like sugar and syrup. Verse 128, disciple, in that case, why should anyone lose hold of that non-dual bliss of Brahma and come out of it? Master, he is drawn out by the force of his past karma. The man who has just awakened from deep sleep does not immediately lose the happiness of sleep, for he does not bestir himself at once, nor forget the happiness. This short interval of peace, which is neither sleep nor waking, is the bliss of remembrance. Verse 129, at the instant the I am the body idea starts, he loses himself in the troubles of the world and forgets the bliss. His past karma brings on pain or pleasure. Peace results in equipoise. Everyone has experienced the state void of thoughts and the pleasure consequent upon it. This is Nijananda. Verse 130, can this be the bliss of Samadhi? No, the external moisture is not the water contained within the pot. This happiness of indifference is only the shadow of the bliss of yogic Samadhi cast upon the rising ego. When the ego subsides and Samadhi results, there is the state of repose in which the mind is not aware of the environment nor asleep, and the body stays stiff like a post. Verse number 131, of the happiness enjoyed by the sole sovereign of the world, the earthly Gandharvas and celestial Gandharvas, the brilliant Pitris, the gods existing from creation, the later gods and celestial chiefs Indra, Brihaspati, Prajapati or Virat or Hiranyagarbha or Brahma, each is 100 times as great as the preceding one, yet all are fragmentary and like froth and foam in the waters of the deluge of Brahmananda. Verse number 132, whosoever remains in the Turyatita state, the seventh and the highest plane, his experience of consciousness bliss is the same as that of Narada, Shuka, Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, and such others free from duality or sleep. Verse number 133, I have now told you of kinds of ananda. I shall later describe the bliss of knowledge. I have already described the bliss of the self as the dearest of all and the bliss of the non-dual self while explaining Maya and Satyachit Ananda. Tell me, have you any more doubts? Verse number 134, disciple, master, if each of the terms Satyachit Ananda of which you have spoken has characteristics of its own, how can the mind which is already unsteady be fixed on unity? I do not see that they are different words with the same meaning. Kindly show me how it is all an indivisible, homogeneous whole like honey which is uniform, though gathered from different flowers by the bees. Verse number 135, master, is water tripartite because of its coldness, fluidity and whiteness, that is transparency, or is fire tripartite because of its light, heat and redness? The Vedas have analyzed and dismissed the cosmos, beginning with the ether, as unsubstantial, insentient and misery-laden. In contradistinction to this, and for easy understanding, they have described Brahma as Satyachit Ananda, which is one only. Verse number 136, the Vedas describe Brahma in affirmative terms as follows: eternal, whole, unique, the highest truth, the supreme, the repository, the source, peace, ever true, absolute, continuum of the source, dream and sleep states, and therefore the fourth, continuous or equal in all, the sight, the witness of all knowledge, pure. The Vedas indirectly denote everlasting indweller, the reality, ether, light, and self liberation, the Lord subtle, and so on. Verse number 137 in negative terms as the unmoving, untainted, immortal, immeasurable, insulted, that which is beyond speech, non insentient, the diseaseless, uncontaminated, incomparable, uninterrupted, unattainable by the mind or the senses, undivided, unborn, infinite, indestructible, that which is without qualities, undivided, that which is without limbs or parts, beginningless, bodiless, changeless, non-dual, and so on. Verse number 138 when all these qualities, affirmative or otherwise, are considered together in the right way, they point to one only and there can be no other. Many may be the words to signify the same. The Brahma signified by Sat Chit Ananda is only one. Realize this unity and remain as one undivided whole. Verse number 139 do not say to describe Brahma by qualities is like speaking of a barren mother. Can there be anyone so talented as to understand the nature of Brahma without being told? What the Vedas have revealed out of grace for gaining knowledge of Brahma and liberation in life are not qualities of Brahma but Brahma itself. Verse 140 Disciple, Master, in accordance with the statement of the Shrutis, I have now understood beyond doubt that myself is the indivisible reality. If you will further establish it by arguments, the truth will be fixed in my mind like an iron spike driven into living tree. Verse number 141 Master, being must itself be consciousness. Should the consciousness be different from being, it must be non existent. How then can the being be revealed? Again, consciousness must itself be being. If different from consciousness, it must be insentient. The insentient cannot exist by itself. Thus, being and consciousness being identical are also bliss. This is the most agreeable argument. Seminal line of reasoning. Otherwise, bliss would be non existent and insentient, and there could be no experience of bliss, which is absurd. Verse 142. Question. How is Sat, which exists at all times, revealed by itself or by another? A. By another. Question. Is that other non existent or existent? Answer. Non existence. Question. Fool. Can the son of a barren woman affect anything? Answer. Then let it be something existing but different from the original Sat. Question. How is its existence revealed? You must say by another. Will there be an end to this chain of existent things and their cognizers? Your answer is therefore untenable. To get rid of this false reasoning. Verse number 143. Listen to experience agreeable to scripture and reason. Since the bliss of profound sleep persists as memory, this bliss itself must be knowledge. There was nothing besides it. Existing in the dissolution and deep sleep, you witness the darkness of ignorance now entering the heart, abide as the all perfect self. Verse number 144. In accordance with the teachings of the Master, the disciple realized that being, consciousness, and bliss are but the same reality, which is homogeneous like the honey that is gathered from different sources and was long fixed in samadhi. When he opened his eyes, he realized himself to be the screen on which moves the kaleidoscopic picture composed of the mobile and immobile objects of the universe. Verse number 145. Disciple, Master, is there anything more for us to do than to have this unique experience, to think and speak of it, and to remain soaked with the experience appears to be the only duty for sages. By gracious and make clear to me how the previously mentioned, see verse 132. Turyatita or seventh plane of knowledge is the highest. Verse number 146. Master, after analysis, the elders say that there are seven states of ignorance and seven degrees of knowledge. Of them all, first hear me describe the seven states of ignorance. The elders have named them thus. Number one, Bija Jagrat, the germinal state of waking. 2. Jagrat, the waking state. 3. Mahajagrat, the waking state firmly established. 4th. Jagrat Swapna, the state of daydreaming castles in the air. 5th. Swapna, the dream state. 6th. Swapna Jagrat, cogitation of the dream after waking up from it. And 7th. Susupti, dreamless sleep. 147 and 148 to explain further. Number 1, the germinal waking state is the uncompounded consciousness which rises up fresh from the unitary state of being. Number 2, the waking state contains the sprout of the ego which was previously absent from the germinal state. 3, the sprout of the I and mind which rises up with every birth is the firm waking state. 4. The fussy ego conjuring up visions is the dreaming wakeful state. 5th. To have uncontrolled visions while sleeping after a full meal is the state of dream. 6. To be thinking of dream after waking up from them is the waking dream. 7. The dense darkness of ignorance is the state of deep slumber. These are the seven states of ignorance. I shall now tell you the seven stages of knowledge which destroy liberation, which bestow liberation. Verse number 149. The elders have analyzed them as 1. Subhicha, desire for truth. 2. Vicharana, investigation into the truth. 3. Tanumana, tanu, Tanumansi, pure and attenuated mind. 4th, Sattvapatti, the realization of the Sat, Sattvapatti, the realization of the truth. Asam Shakti, a detached outlook on the universe and its contents. 6. Padarth Bhavani, untainted awareness of self. 7. Turiya, the highest and indescribable state. 150 and 152 explain further. Number 1, to wean away unedifying associations and to desire knowledge of the Supreme is the first plan called Subhicha. Number 2, to associate with enlightened sages, learn from them and reflect on the truth is called investigation. 3. To be free from desires by meditating on the truth with faith is the attenuation of the mind. Number 4. The shining forth of the highest knowledge in the mind owing to the development of the foregoing conditions is realization. 5th. To be free from illusion by firm realization of truth is the detached outlook on the universe. 6. The bliss of the non-dual self devoid of triads is untainted awareness of self. 7. Sublime silence of very nature of self is Turiya. Here why the seventh plane was said to be Turyatita, that is beyond the Turiya. Verse 152. The first three planes are said to be Jagrat, that is the waking state, because the world is perceived in them as ever before. The fourth plane corresponds to dream, because the world is recognized to be dream-like. Even the dim perception of the world gradually vanishes, and therefore the fifth plane is called the sleep state. Transcendental bliss prevails in the sixth, which is therefore called Turiya. That is the fourth state relative to the foregoing waking, dream, and sleep states. The plane beyond all imagination is the seventh one, which the Vedas indicate as sublime silence, that is Turiyatita. Verse number 153. Some sages consider the name Turiya to be in conflict with the foregoing explanation of Turyatita, which according to them will be the glorious liberation after disembodiment. In such a scheme, the sixth plan is the state of very deep slumber as compared with the dreamless sleep of the fifth plan. I shall further tell you the peculiarities of these glorious planes. Verse number 154. Those who yet remain in the first three planes are practitioners and not emancipated. Brahmavids are those who got into the fourth plan, they are pure and liberated. Those in the next three plans are respectively Vari, Varya, and Varishtha. That is the eminent, the more eminent, and the most eminent among the knowers of Brahma. I shall further tell you the excellence of the plans of the enlightened. Verse number 155. Those who have remained in the first three planes and died before they reached the fourth plane go to the happy region. Then they reincarnate and gradually gain liberation. They surely do not go to the unedifying lower planes. The first plane itself is difficult to gain. This gained liberation is as good as gained. Verse number 156. If they gain the first or second planes of enlightenment in this world, even malichas are as good as emancipated. But by the holy feet of my master, this is true. Cursed by they that deny it. Doubt not the Vedas, common to all, strictly following the indicated way, clearly realize I am Brahma. Verse number 157. Disciple, Master, you have just said that the planes of knowledge lead even contemptible malechas to final liberation. But some say that liberation cannot be gained unless the person renounces all domestic ties and retired as a sannyasi. Please clear my confusion on this point. Verse number 158. Master, son, your doubt is right. Hear me clear it. The renunciation which snaps domestic ties is of four kinds. They are Kutitska, Bahudaka, Hamsa, and Paramhansa, all of which are a panacea to the miseries of the world, but detachment and not the habiliments of authority is the sole requisite for such renunciation. Verse number 159. Detachment is again of three degrees according to as it is dull, intense, and very intense. That which is caused by a shock is impulsive and dull. Discarding home and wealth for life is the intense form. Disgust for Brahmaloka as being illusory is the very intense. 106 Shloka 160 and 60 161. Dull detachment does not qualify one for sannyasa. Intense detachment makes the person eligible for the first two orders of sannyasa if strong and fit the must move about as a bahudaka. Otherwise, must stay at one place as kutichka. When detachment is very intense, he can take to the Hansa or Paramhansa order. They say that the Hansa cannot gain final liberation unless through Satyaloka, whereas the Paramhansa can gain it here and now. The Paramhansa order, which is so efficient, is again of two grades. Verse number 162. A Paramhansa may be one who desires to know the truth or is a realized being. The former is an intelligent practitioner in the first three planes. The latter is a remarkable and pure sage who is liberated here and now. The former class of Paramhansa is of two kinds. Hear me speak of them also. Verse number 163. Of these, one will give up the ties of home according to ritual, formally enter the order of sannyasa and gain supreme knowledge. The other kind of remaining as Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras gain supreme knowledge. Knowing it from the Shastras and in actual practice, why do you still get confused? You must clear yourself by the authority of Shrutis, your own reasoning and immediate experience. Verse number 164. If birth be a fact, then death is inevitable. But I am Brahma, who is never born. If I be that which is born, this I cannot surely be Brahma. Therefore I am that I which is birthless and deathless Brahma. Verse number 165 and 66. If I am Brahma, how does it happen that I do not know this I? Answer. Who says I now? Question. The intellect. Answer. The intellect gets lost in a swoon. That which remains never lost as perfect consciousness is I. Question. This state of perfection is not clear to me. How can I experience it? Answer. There is the experience of happiness in deep sleep, and it is that no happiness can be experienced anywhere when a want is felt. Therefore, the self must be this perfection. This is the source of all. Verse number 167. The cosmos originated in the imagination of the mind. Reason shows that these worlds have their being in the consciousness. If the inquiry is pursued into the self as transcending all this and extending limitless, I remain as the one perfect being. Verse number 168. Disciple, how should I remain so that I may experience what you have described as bliss? Master, if you get rid of that mode of mind which gives rise to the states of waking, dream, and sleep, you will remain as your true being and also experience bliss. Verse number 169. If you ask how to control the activities of the mind rising up from its latencies, rule over the intellect and senses as your slaves, they will become extinct. Verse number 170. Also by gentle control of the breath, which blows like bellows, the activities of the mind cease. If you are not inclined to practice this yoga, they will cease if you root out the massive ignorance of the causal body, then to the mind stop its activity. Verse number 171. Disciple, by what means can I root out ignorance, the causal body? Master, the Shrutis can never mislead one. How can there be ignorance if you firmly fix their teaching in your mind? I am the all perfect being in whom the worlds appear. Verse number 172. Disciple, how can I remain thus when I engage in worldly transactions with wandering mind? Master, there is nothing apart from me. Whatever is seen is of me. I am he who is consciousness and which sees all this is fictitious as my dream. Verse number 173. If you always remain aware that I am perfect consciousness, what does it matter how much you think or what you do? All this is unreal like dream vision. After waking, I am all bliss. Verse number 174 to 177. Disciple, I had in my countless past incarnations mistaken the body for the self, high or low, seeing all as a mirage. I have, by the grace of my master, realized the self as I and been liberated. What meritorious works I have done! I cannot describe my good fortune. I am blessed by the grace of my master Narayana of Nannilam. In my ecstasy, I threw off my clothes in the air and danced for joy. How noble have my parents been that they named me Tandava, dancer, as they even then foresaw that I would be overpowered by the joy of having realized the self and therefore dance in ecstasy. Before whom shall I pour forth this ecstatic bliss of mine? It rises from within, surges up, fills the whole universe and floods unbounded. I bow to the lotus feet of the Almighty who was so gracious as to bring me into contact with the Master who could teach me the truth according to the holy text. Verse number 178 and 179. Such is Vidyananda. Those who study this work with devotion will realize the high state of repose and be liberated here and now in order that all may understand clearly Vidyananda, the true spirit of the holy books. In Nanilam, Master Narayana appeared in my Samadhi and commanded me to take this Kaivalya Navneeta, perfect in every detail and free from defect. Verse number 180. Though the grace of his Lord Tandvesa has shown how freeing oneself from interior and exterior, one may be converted into the one, and having been convinced that the intended sense of the Vedas, which are beyond thought, is I, and that the body and such are but modes of sound nada, one may become the seer of all and see everything in oneself. Verse number 181. Those who without wavering recognize the one witness of blazing luster, Triyatita, which is perfected in the meaning of those three most excellent words, that thou art, will unravel the note of differences and overcoming every obstacle will be themselves converted into the self. Verse number 182. This is the delight of knowledge spoken of by the Vedas. Those who worship the feet of Narayana, who has described it, are without blemish. Those who, through the teacher of this pupil, approach the stage in which doubt is finished and steadily go forward to perfection, will obtain spotless emancipation. Verse number 183. The author has, through the two parts of this work, kindled the sublime light of the Spirit to the end that the eternal darkness of Maya may perish, and clearing all doubts arising from mental knowledge which is affected by the differences, has subjected the disciple to himself. Verse number 184. Praise, praise to the author of my salvation. He placed on his head the foot of Narayana, the infinite Lord, who had made him his slave, and who by means of process of negation had destroyed what through imposition had arisen as a mere fictitious appearance, and put me in such a condition that I wish with eyes of grace can remain forever the spectator. Verse number 185. Just as the refreshingly cool water from the holy feet of one's wise master sprinkled on one's head confers all the merits obtained from all the holy places of pilgrimage, so also the learners of this unique work acquire the merits of the holy books and live as sages in the world. So, dear friends, this completes the book Kaivalya Navneetam, that is the cream of liberation. Thank you for your patience. Namaste, my dear friend. Please like, comment, and share the video, and subscribe my channel. This is your channel. Namaskar, dear friends. Namaskar, namaskar. Thank you.